Hi folks, so I'm back at the park, and yesterday was the Grand Conjunction, the Jupiter-Saturn Grand Conjunction. Very much an astrological reset. And I've done a video on the Grand Conjunction already, and I'll place a link to it once I'm done processing this video at the end of this video. I also did another important video a couple of videos ago where I summarized the energy of the time, and I'll place a link to that at the end of this video as well, so you have all these references that you can dive deeper into. Suffice it to say, we're still very much in the time till the middle of February 2021, where we are wrapping up the old. And in that video where I summarized the energy of the time, I specifically talked about which signs contain business that are around wrapping up the old and we're welcoming in the new, and which signs are about welcoming in the new. And certainly the sign of Aquarius is very much about welcoming in new energy. The sign of Aquarius has been a non-player for all intents and purposes for a few years, and now it is a massive player. A massive player. Certainly there's no question that wherever Aquarius sits in our charts for the next 20 years is a primary theme with the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction in our lives, just as where Taurus sat in our charts was a primary theme in our lives since the middle of 2000, when the last Jupiter-Saturn conjunction occurred in Taurus. Irrespective, I digress. I decided that in order to deal with this new reset of energies, I would go around the zodiac and I would focus on each sign that is currently active and start to give you some more details around what is going on in those signs and what to look for. On December the 30th, we have a full moon in Cancer, and the Cancer-Capricorn axis is where we've been having the eclipses, the old set of eclipses, since the middle of July 2018. So as we embrace the new and move into the new set of Gemini, Sagittarius eclipses, and Jupiter and Saturn moving into Aquarius at long last, and all this new energy that is coming in, there is definitely a focus on wrapping up old stuff that, as I said, takes us through to the middle of February as well. And I'm going to start with the sign of Scorpio, and I'm going to definitely delineate in each of these videos whether I'm talking about old energies or new energies. And the sign of Scorpio is very much associated with old energies that we're trying to wrap up and dot the I and cross the T on. Now, those of you who follow astrology may say, why are you focusing on the sign of Scorpio? There are no active transits there. There are no active transits there, but the last Mercury cycle that was initiated in Scorpio and remains active till February the 8th. What is a Mercury cycle? When a retrograde Mercury meets up with the Sun, and as a reminder, Mercury in November went retrograde, went retrograde, absolutely in October, November. Frankly, it went retrograde in October. Mercury went retrograde in Scorpio, briefly in Libra, and then back into Scorpio after it went direct. So Mercury spent a fair amount of its retrograde time in Scorpio, and when it was retrograde on October the 25th, 2020, it met up with the Sun. So a retrograde Mercury meets up with the Sun on October the 25th, 2020, the start of a Mercury cycle. I'll talk more about this in a second. Mercury is still retrograde. On November the 3rd, it goes direct. Both Mercury and the Sun are moving forward. On December the 19th, Mercury and the Sun meet up. Mercury now is ahead of the Sun, and the Sun and Mercury keep traveling, and on January the 30th, Mercury goes retrograde again in Aquarius. Here we go, Aquarius. And on February the 8th, a retrograde Mercury meets up with the Sun again to end the last Mercury cycle and start a new Mercury cycle. So Mercury goes retrograde 3 times a year. Every time a retrograde Mercury meets up with the Sun, it initiates a new Mercury cycle. In modern corporate talk, we can say that a new project has been started related to the sign in which that conjunction occurs. And a conjunction simply means that the Sun and the Mercury from where we sit are at the same degree. Yesterday's conjunction with Jupiter and Saturn was so special because latitudinally and longitudinally those planets were so close together. That's not always the case. All we're looking for in conjunction is that the planets are at the same degree. They don't have to necessarily, from our line of sight, need to be on top of each other or eclipsing each other. More often than not, they don't eclipse each other. It's a simple conjunction. Okay. There are 4 phases to these projects. Phase 1, or the initiation, starts when Mercury retrograde meets up with the Sun, October 25th, and it ends when Mercury goes direct, November the 3rd. Phase 2, November the 3rd to December the 19th, Mercury direct meets up with the Sun again on December the 19th. November the 3rd, Mercury direct, December 19th, meeting up with the Sun, Phase 2. Phase 3, December the 19th to when Mercury goes retrograde again, January 30th. And Phase 4, January 30th to February 8th, when a retrograde Mercury meets up with the Sun in Aquarius. Okay, Phase 1, requirements gathering. What do we need to communicate about and process? This is a Mercury cycle. Communication, processing, thinking, talking, contracts, negotiations, arguments. Arguments are only part of it. Communication, cognition, understanding, communication. Related to Scorpionic themes and where Scorpio sits in your chart, what house it occupies, and what those houses stand for. Mercury has been going retrograde in water signs for a few years. So Mercury has been retrograde in Scorpio around October, November for at least 3 or 4 years. I can't remember exactly how long, but for a while. And Mercury has been retrograde in Pisces and Cancer. So this, when I say that the Scorpionic energies are finishing up the old, in many respects, it's the last of the old major cycles related to water signs and emotional entanglements and emotional issues that have very much been a main dish on our table for the past 3 or 4 years, since 2015, 2016, when we had eclipses in Pisces. Then, 2018, 19, and 20, we had eclipses in the sign of Cancer. And we would have these Mercury retrogrades in Scorpio. Our emotional life, what we protected, how we were enmeshed with others, what we were letting go of, all very topical. And with Mercury retrograde in water signs, it's a hard place to have Mercury retrograde because we are trying to make sense of our feelings and our emotional entanglements, and that's not an easy process. Mercury is always trying to articulate and execute and transact on things, and it's not easy to always articulate and transact on and communicate whatever it is that's going on with us emotionally and relationship-wise. Well, this is the last of these Mercury cycles in Scorpio or in the water signs that we're dealing with for a while. Requirements gathering, and the Scorpio Mercury retrogrades always run October, November, so if you think about the past 3 or 4 years and what was coming up for you around October, November, if you know where Scorpio sits in your chart, you know what house it occupies, bingo, bullseye. You'll know what I'm talking about. And it wouldn't surprise me if communication with any party that is signified by the house in which Scorpio sits in your chart has come up again. It would not surprise me if negotiations and conversations, it wouldn't surprise me if there's a certain amount of murkiness. It wouldn't surprise me if you're trying to make sense of things. It wouldn't surprise me if there's communication. It wouldn't surprise me if the communication is a little bit scorpionic and has a bit of a sting in it. It wouldn't surprise me if it is incisive. It wouldn't surprise me if it is trying to get to the actual emotional truth of the relationship. And the sign of Scorpio, now, I'm talking about the sign of Scorpio. I'm not talking about the house now, about where it is that Scorpio occupies that sits in your chart. But the sign of Scorpio for me is very much about marriage and divorce. Sex and money. Intimate entanglements, financial and emotional entanglements. It's not just with a significant other or someone with whom you have a romantic relationship. It could be with anybody, business partners, family members, friends. It's beyond the realm of anything casual. There are commitments, there are contracts. Typically, these are relationships that have a history or are building a history, and there are enmeshments. Roommates. Who do you hold money with? I'm not saying you're intimately involved physically with your roommates. You could be, but that's not what that's about. But whether it is codependency, dependency, emotional dependency, emotional entanglements, making sense of emotional entanglements and emotional dependencies and finances and financial entanglements and financial history and intimacy. Do we stay married or do we divorce? Is this relationship working out or is it not? But not in a casual way, in a very deep and intimate way. Goes back 3 or 4 years around this time when this theme has been coming up. It's been coming up with other water sign transits as well, but we're talking the sign of Scorpio. We're talking about where Scorpio sits in your chart. We're talking about the final one, October 25th to November the 3rd, requirements gathering, November the 3rd to December 19th, implementation. Events occur. Things are thrown onto the table. Actions happen. Actions are taken. December 19th to, which is where we are at right now, December 19th to January the 30th, when Mercury goes retrograde in Aquarius. December 19th to January 30th, adjustments, seeing the results of those actions, course correction, making changes, harvesting results. And then January 30th to February the 8th, when Mercury, a new Mercury cycle is created in the sign of Aquarius, a conclusion, wrapping things up, finishing up what needs to be finished up, setting it behind us. One of the reasons why previous items that are requiring completion and conclusion, do you go into counseling, Scorpio, sign of therapy, emotional truth, emotional depth, emotional truth. Is this relationship, are these relationships a keeper or are they not? Do you stay together or do you separate? If you separate or stay together, what does it mean? Financially, emotionally, in terms of intimacy, in terms of the nature of the relationship, where it is that you are dependent, where it is that you are not. It's not necessarily the sign of contracts. That I'll give to Libra, but it is where the contracts are lived out and therefore have to be, and therefore are executed and are felt. You know, you could have a contract with someone, it could be an agreement. I'll see you at 4. That's the contract. Who you're making it with and the fact that you're making a contract. Now, whether you habitually always say that and show up at 4:45, or whether you don't show up at all, or whether you cancel at the last minute, or you can be relied on to show up all the time and you have a rollicking good time, all of that then starts to go into the realm of what the nature of this dependency and keeping the contracts and living the contract is. I'm using a very light example, meeting someone at 4. This idea of a contractual verbal agreement, what relationships are built on, agreements, commitments, you can extend to deeper and deeper situations. So to summarize, we are in the middle, smack dab in the middle at this point in time, it's December the 22nd, of a communication cycle related to the sign of Scorpio, financial and emotional entanglements, whether with intimate romantic partners or anyone with whom we have some sort of shared financial commitment or responsibility or dependency or codependency. These are themes that have been very much on the table with increasing intensity for the past 3 or 4 years. You can look back easily to October, November 2018, 2019, and certainly 2020, and it is here for some sort of conclusion. And whatever these themes of these relationships are, this time around really does feel like make or break. Am I going to be able to put this stuff behind me and I'm going to move forward with a renewed understanding so that even if we are coming together again, maybe it's a new commitment ceremony of sorts, either an actual commitment ceremony or not, you know, kind of a recommitment, or else people decide to move forward or still sort of be in touch but readjust the relationship so it's a little less intense, or people break up. But thematically, this has been in play for the past 3 or 4 years, and here it is seeking conclusion with a kind of a shit or get off the pot energy. Had enough. So let's make up our minds, or let one party make up their minds, or whoever it is that needs to make up their minds, because now this is old energy, and it is asking to be wrapped up and be put behind us. Whatever has been learned has been learned. Whatever's happened has happened. Where do we end up by February the 8th? And this phase we're in from December the 19th to January the 30th, before Mercury goes retrograde in Aquarius, is about whatever has happened since October the 25th. It is to start to make adjustments to and start to try and reach some conclusions on. Are we happy with where things are at this point in time based on everything that has been said and done, or not said and done, or avoided, or dived into? Are we not? It's not concluded. It's not going to feel concluded. We are now moving towards conclusion and making adjustments. It's still a time of action. So I would embrace and take that action. I would try to reach a new level of comfort. Ideally, mutual respect. Comfort with how it is that a relationship or relationships should be moving forward. It could be that through February the 8th, if there's financial business or entanglements with other people, especially with people associated with the house where Scorpio sits in your chart, it could be that you drive to some sort of conclusion. If you owe taxes, if you owe someone money, it could be that there is, on a more mundane level, you find yourself actively taking steps to kind of fulfill a commitment by February the 8th or January the 30th. That could be part of it too, on a very straightforward level. It's getting darker. I can tell that the camera. I'm gonna end it here. You know, the aim is just to go around the chart and talk about different signs that are active. This is how Scorpio is active. If you're feeling this, everything I've described, if it feels resonant thematically, know that it is in play. I've given you the dates. Do the research. It's not the only activity going on right now. It is an old set of activities, so that even if there are no transits anymore in Scorpio, wherever Scorpio sits in your chart, and scorpionic energies and themes, if you're feeling them, they are at play. Marriage, divorce. Doesn't have to be literal. Who are you in bed with? Who are you partnering with? Who are you committing to? Who are you separating from? And it's not a purely rational decision. What makes it so hard and complicated is that it is actually an emotional set of decisions. It is a recognition and articulation of emotional truths and then acting on them. And that entire process is extraordinarily murky. I would, if I were you, embrace the murkiness and try to reach some sort of conclusion on these issues and matters by February the 8th. January the 30th, February the 8th. It will prove helpful and it will prove clearing. All right. Next, I'm going to focus on the sign of Sagittarius. A new set of energies. This is Scorpio's old set of energies, Sagittarius' new set of energies. That's going to be my next video. And we'll keep going with Capricorn, Aquarius, Aries, Taurus probably. We'll see. We'll get there. Gemini. I'm just listing signs that are important right now. If you like this video, found it useful, feel free to share it, like it, comment on it if you feel so inclined. Likes and comments, I think, drive up viewership, or just the way content is served up on YouTube. That's the urban myth. I think there's some truth to it, so if you do feel inclined, that'd be great. My contact information is going to be in the description area below once I'm done processing this video. And you can reach out to me and inquire about rates for readings. Or if you want me to make an easy-to-read version of your chart that shows you which sign sits in which house, you can inquire for rates for that too. And I will leave it at this until the next video.